So welcome to the Gigantic Hero Creation panel, where we're also going to do a cool character reveal at the end of 2 new heroes that have not been on the website yet. And I'll just start with introductions. Vinod Rams, character concept artist at Motiga. I think everyone.
I'm Devin Katie Lee. I also am a concept artist, most of the characters.
Ted Lockwood, character artist, 3D.
Ben Friedman, animator.
And I'm Mark Eaton, effects artist.
So the first thing everyone on the art team wanted to say is the response to all the art for Gigantic, from the trailer to things on the website, has been really positive, and for us on the art team,
Thank you.
that has been great, and we read all those comments because we're all huge narcissists, and we have to see what people are talking about when any of our stuff goes live. So we're really happy with it. We worked hard to make the game look like what it looks like, and we're continuing to do that. And hopefully this panel will give you a little insight into the process that we have at Motiga, which is actually a little different than a lot of us are. We're all veterans of different, 3 or 4 different companies before here, and the process is different, and it's a good process. So we'll try to give you a little bit of insight into that.
We as part of that, we lack an art director, so a lot of the decisions that we're making are sort of communal in the way that we make a lot of decisions. Yes.
No art
director.
That's right.
So that's kind of strange.
We're going to have a Q&A thing at the end, but if there's something that we're talking about and you just want to know more about it, just be informal, just ask us. It's no big deal. So we thought we'd use TRIPP as a good example of like how we design characters, or heroes especially, for Gigantic. This is the final model that Ted made, and I was the concept artist for this character, but she has a very interesting path to get to here. So we'll just start off with that. So the core principles of the way we design any hero, guardian, or creature at Motiga is to use these 3 kind of pillars that we came up with, which would be bold, focused, and charming. Bold meaning strong shapes, pretty self-explanatory.
Ideas.
Bold ideas too. Focused, which would be a strong singular idea, like the hero is all about this thing, so the design should follow that. And then charming is personality and character. It doesn't mean everything is cute and happy or funny, but everything has character, or at least there's things in the design that say, hey, that's interesting, I want to know more about that, as opposed to just guy with gun with army fatigues type character.
Charisma,
yes. So I thought we'd show some of the characters and talk about, just briefly, some of the characters that really emphasize this bold, focused, and charming idea, and then show how we did the same thing to get to where TRIPP is. So here's the Margrave. It's pretty blatant what he does, especially if you played the game.
It's pretty scary.
He's big and tough, and he smashes things. You look at him and you probably want to know, why does he have a demon hand and what's going on with him? So that gives him a little personality. All those things, there's no question about his role as a hero in the game. You want to talk about this?
TYTO is his code name in the game was Swift, so the idea was that he was a very fast character, very fluid in the way he fights, and a lot of him is about finesse and flourish. And so part of the design when we were coming up with him was to kind of push it in that direction and really focus the aesthetic around making him feel the way he plays in the game.
And he's got built-in charm because he has a pet, and I think everyone's responding to that really well. Uncle Sven's a guy I came up with. He had a pretty good process. We could have done this panel about him as well. And he's chaotic, he's crazy, and I think his design follows that very well. He's also, the way the animations go, he's very like, basically a water balloon was our keyword for him, and the way he animates, the way he moves around the map is definitely follows suit with that. So here's the first sketches of Rogue. Her code name was Rogue. Later, she got named TRIPP. Okay. So this was back when the game, we knew we were having heroes. We knew it was a PvP. Everything else was starting to get built at that point, but the idea was just stealthy kind of character, uses blades, and then I came up with this kind of desert kind of princess theme. People liked it. It's got some cool things in it still, but once we went over with James, who's our lead designer, he said, I think he wants the role for this character to be a little bit different. This character looks a little fun. She looks like she kind of dances around the battlefield as opposed to like sneaks up behind you and just shanks you in the back. So that was round one. This character got modeled actually by Ted and got into the game. So I don't know, Ted, you want to comment about it?
It's just the first version of the character, which was, the design was kind of loose. We just kind of made something that was really appealing, that we liked, and that kind of fit the style that we were going for, but we hadn't really laid down really core hard principles of how we wanted to define shapes and how we wanted the characters to be designed to appeal to people. And so it's just kind of a little bit more generic. Her personality is a little bit more vague. Her inspirations were just kind of more along the lines of a small, quick, knife fightery girl. And that was kind of about it. And as we kind of moved forward with her, we tried to really take the gameplay and the vibe that we wanted for her and really make her design message only a couple of core concepts. And while we really liked this, the concepts were kind of vague, and just the shapes, the overall stylization, I mean, you can kind of see, compared to what we have now, the stylization is pretty weak on her. She's pretty anatomical. I mean, there's not a lot of fine folds or creases or textures on the cloth or the skin, but it's still pretty weak stylization-wise, and we kind of knew pretty soon after we modeled her that she was going to get revised to really push things further.
Right. And
even though this is first draft, what made you decide on that color scheme over anything else?
So the question for people on Twitch was what made us decide on this color scheme over anything else at this stage, and of the color schemes that we had picked, Vinod did a big sheet of different options, and it was just the one that everybody kind of picked that they liked the best. But at the time when we had her in game like this, we had 5 different skins to choose from, 5 different color combinations, so we had options.
also, at this point, the character was more like Jubilee from X-Men, like kind of a fun, kind of happy character, even though she was a fighter. And that changed. James said, I want the role of this character to be I want who plays this character to feel stealthy, dangerous, and this character wasn't doing it, and we all agreed. And going back to what Ted was saying about the stylization, like, there's some interesting shapes on her, like her big, hammer pants, but if we were redoing a character like this now, with what we know now about how to make characters for Gigantic, it's like those pants would have been the primary shape. She would have been this like triangular, really bottom heavy, and all these different decisions would have been made. Okay, so then this speaks to the collaborative process at Motiga. One of our animators, Christian, he had some ideas for the character, and when we decided we're going to redo the character, everyone threw in ideas, a lot of talking. I did a whole slew of ideas as well, and he did this idea of this kind of goth, dark character that has this, the lightning powers and coils on her arms that kind of reinforce that, she has these powers, and then they get conducted through her arms into her blades. Everyone liked the idea, and we started picking it apart, looking at the details and stuff. One thing I forgot to mention is the lightning aspect. When I designed that original character, the one that looks like Desert Princess version, there was no idea that she had lightning powers. So that James came up with the idea of, let's give her something more than just like actual physical knives. She's got some magic to her. And once everyone liked that idea, we realized this character design does not, have any of that in it. Like, there's no indication she has magic or anything like that. So the lightning idea was cool, so we started going with a different idea. Did my version of Christian's idea, which cool. It's starting to hit the pillars. It's charming. She looks like an interesting character, personalities there. There's some cool, bold shapes now. But I'll go to the next one, and you can see, Ted, you can talk about this a little.
This was the second version of her that we had in game, where we took that concept that Chris had drawn and then Vinod's polished version of it, and brought her into the game to see how she played. And it was a lot better. It was a lot more in line with the kind of style and the look we were going for. The shapes are a lot simpler and cleaner, and when she's on screen, there's a lot less going on with her character, and so it's a lot easier to see like what she is. But it was still not really doing it for us. The core principles we kind of decided we wanted to do for her were lightning and assassin and stealth, and those were kind of like the core vibes we wanted you to get when you were playing her. And it just wasn't really driving it home yet. We kind of realized after we got her in game, like the goggles she has, which were originally there to just be like something that she put on to shield herself from all the lightning explosions that she causes. We're kind of making her feel like a mad scientist, and the silver things on the side of her head were originally on the first concept as sort of like headphone analogs, because she was kind of this hip hop influenced character at the time. And we liked the shapes, but it was getting to the point where they just weren't doing what we needed them to do. And we wanted to make sure that every single thing that was on the character was really driving these core principles, and there was nothing else to confuse what was going on, to really simplify and focus the character designs. And it was getting close, but like her weapons aren't blades. They're like these weird cattle prod things that were spiky but not really assassin-y feeling, and like the round coils on her arms were good for conducting electricity but not really scary, not really assassin-y feeling. And just overall she was still kind of feeling not... Oh, when you played her, you didn't feel like I'm gonna go murder a whole bunch of people and then disappear into the night. Like, she still kind of feels a little bit fun and a little bit muddy in terms of personality.
So, one more revision. Darker tone. She looks a little bit more of like a dangerous character. Stronger shapes. We got rid of the goggles. No more little headgear pieces. Started making the coils feel a little bit more dangerous, gave her actual blades, and people started feeling like, okay, this is the direction. She feels like small and like a dart, like a blade or like a dart. What were you going to say?
I was going to say the adjective we used a lot was murdery.
Murdery. She was trying to get her to be more of a murderer.
We're going to hit that murder zone.
So this was getting a lot closer, we felt, to what we really wanted her to play as.
Right. There was some question about the hood, like what can we do with it? I did, when we wanted to show this page, it's kind of like different ideas of what you can do with that hood shape. Most of these, the idea was, oh, now she's starting to look like a sorcerer. She looks like a, some type of mage, like a full-on mage that just has like a staff. And it went against the fact that she moves fast if she has this like giant triangle thing on her head. So you can see kind of on the middle row, 4A is kind of, or 4B actually is the one we ended up liking. It's still a big enough shape compared to number 1 up in the top left there, but it doesn't have all that extra flourish that the ones in the top row have. And then you can see at the bottom, I started exploring her like shape motif. These flat kind of dart-like shapes that they're on her belt, they're her blades, they are echoed in her hood, they're also echoed in her coils on her arm. So we try to do that for every character. Like every character has 3 or 4 shapes, or one or two, honestly, like that are carried through the character from as much as possible.
Actually, Vinod, could you go back to the last concept? Sure. One other thing that we were feeling with this is a lot of like the Alchemist and the Minotaur are like one big strong shape, like a single shape from a distance that you can read, and she was still feeling very much like just a human shape, but not like a strong, powerful, like geometric shape like we try to get for each character. And she was almost there, and that was a big drive behind the push for that giant sheet of hood exploration. Was we felt like the hood was the place to do it, and that this one wasn't quite there yet. So then we decided that big dice triangle shape above her shoulders was perfect, especially once she's in game.
Right.
Like now she reads like she is that triangle hood. She is this like sharp, dark, just stabby shape. Like her weapons are stabby, her entire character is stabby.
Just pick up a character and stab someone with it.
Yeah.
Ted, at one point when we were thinking of names for her, wanted to name her Stabitha, I believe.
Yeah, stab with it. Terrible name.
You wrote it on that board at one point.
It was a great name.
Yeah, like-
I'm really sad we didn't go with Stabitha.
I think it was like Stabitha Killington or something.
I like to really subtle character.
This is the final concept.
Make it a skin.
There was the idea of, is she like totally kind of gothed out with this white, not even Caucasian skin, but actually white, or does she have natural skin tone? We got both into game. They both read all right, but the contrast between the black and white definitely read well. So that's what you see now in the game. And here's the final model again, Ted, if you want to talk about it.
The only other real difference because there's some visual development happens between the concept and the model, and in this last stage, the only real big difference was the coils on her arms got changed from smooth like Tesla coils into like sharp edged like blade coils. So they're smooth in the concept, and then I sharpened them up a lot and spiked them out just to kind of just reinforce that even more. And yeah, this is the one we have now in game, and I think we're all pretty happy with it. Like she feels like a solid, simple, focused character.
Right. And the way the feedback we do at Motiga is there's meetings, we get together and talk about it in meeting form, but we also use internal wiki software and just message board style, like people will just chime in and the whole studio,
Not just art.
right. And if you post something that you feel strongly about, you can fight for it, but you also look and see what the consensus is. I wouldn't call it, it's not designed by committee at all. It's more like, here's my idea, what do you guys think of it? People will bring up, if people just bring up, I don't like it, then, and you still feel strongly about it, you can still proceed with it. But if people bring up, oh, the proportions are muddy, like what's going on, then you have to revisit it.
No, I think we've all been forced to really reconsider things that we felt strongly about at some point. Like there were definitely things in this character that I thought we needed to have as the final design, and a lot of people were like, you know what, actually I don't feel this, and I think we all trust each other enough that we've all had to reconsider some things that are really important to us, and it's always ended up being better for the art and the game itself. It has always looked better because of it, which has been really fun.
Yeah. So model's done, and then it goes to animation. So without Ben, want to chime in? Tell me when to switch over to things.
So I guess to echo what these guys are saying, it's really important that I think everyone is a stakeholder in the development process. And, as much as things tend to move down the chain, they also sometimes move back up in case something's wrong. I mean, that's why this model was redone over and over again, because once you get in the game and look at it, you might decide, oh, this isn't really achieving the goals we set out for ourselves with this. So oftentimes that ends up being the case. These sort of leaving concepting and moving into sort of the movement and animation part of the process. Leaving that stage, Vinod or Devin will do a variety of concepts trying to illustrate how this character should move and feel from a movement standpoint. And that gives us a jumping off point for how to approach the motion and characterization from an animation standpoint. This stuff, some of these are things that we request specifically. I seem to remember calling out the jumps on Despair, the sort of tentacle caster, as being like, how do these jumps actually work? When she casts spells, do they do like specific motions? And I remember thinking early on that would be a very cool thing if we had sort of very iconic shapes kick off every time she casts a spell. But that hasn't really happened so much in the animation, just for like physicality reasons. So, but it's really helpful to have concepts perspective on how these characters should move going into our process. I guess to sort of segue into a different part of that conversation, you can go ahead. Another part of the responsibilities, I guess, of animation, besides just making characters move, I view our role as being sort of a storyboard for design. So design is coming up with these ideas of what characters should do, and we're sort of going in and trying to illustrate those in the simplest ways possible. We had inclinations early on to sort of try and match some of the smear frame / actions that are moving so fast that the character's in multiple places at the same time. And so this was sort of an effort to figure out, what do we actually need mechanically so that people can see that? Because it's a sensation you're after, and not so much you're not after emotion, you're after a sensation that people perceive. That sometimes it's so fast that they can't even see it. In that particular clip, there were like 4 arms out at any given moment. You can't see it, but you feel it. This is a sort of prototyping. Okay, we know we want Rogue to dodge or TRIPP to dodge, but how does that dodge work? And so doing something like this kind of allows us to see, like, we want her to turn into lightning. She is lightning. And something like this helps to sell that idea to other people who, if I go up to someone and say, hey, this character, when they dodge, they become the lightning. Like, they are the light. Like, saying that means nothing, but when you can actually see, then you get a better sense of what that actually means.
Actually, if you could leave that up, it's a good point, because that actually segues kind of into like how the animator effects artist process works. This isn't obviously like a pervasive, exactly what we're going to make for the effects, but what it does in the last slide with the crazy bleeding person, as well as with this one with the lightning, is it gives us a feeling that we want to exemplify. And with the effects, it's really helpful because it not only helps with timing, because timing is huge, especially in regard to animation that I do for effects and also for Ben for animation. It gives you the flavor, the soul, if you will, of what it is that we're trying to achieve. And this stuff is really helpful because it reminds us, not just the idea, but also the charm and the flavor that we're going for.
Mm-hmm. There's a few more we can show. This one was for HK, the robot guy. Christian did the idea of what he transforms into. And the thing he does in game isn't that different from this. He actually turns into a turret, plops down, and just unloads. So.
Arguably, I think there's some people that want him to shoot a lot faster.
Yeah. So that's another thing is things like this tend to resonate. You see something like this, and it tends to echo within the building a little bit. So sometimes it's even when things have to change for the better, it's hard to let go of some of the things that you see in these. But it's worth noting that the character machine looks nothing like that box with guns strapped to it. But just even something as
the
crude
soul
as
is
that.
there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a really old one that is really cool to show.
Oh, yeah.
So this
So like,
Possibilities, let's go.
yeah, but this actually, it's almost a precursor to the Uncle Sven character. He throws down the bounce goo skill, and it's the same thing. He throws it down, and he and the other team, the people on his team, can use it as a jump pad. So
Yeah.
these kinds of ideas, even if it's not a sword launch, it's still
Now,
Still
did
comes
that
into play.
actually inspire the choice to like, 'cause there's jump abilities on several of the heroes.
Right.
Y'all didn't even have anything like that before someone came up with this crazy concept?
This one's super old. This is before we even had like heroes. This is when the game
So,
was a
yeah,
lot
pretty
different.
much.
So yeah, like people like this idea enough that we like, oh, we need a character that
Yeah.
has a jump pad, basically.
This was kicking around for a long time before it finally made it in game.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, as I said, like the way things resonate, something like this, you see something like this, and subconsciously you sort of hang on to it. Whether you go back and look at this thing again, like you might think, oh, there's this great idea. Like it doesn't matter where you saw it. Sometimes it just sort of percolates through your brain.
Right. We have a couple videos that show Ben's, or actually just a whole bunch of animators, the animation and the effects, and maybe the two of
Sure.
you guys. I'll just start with the rogue one.
Okay.
Why don't you take one?
Yeah. So, full screen. This is sort of just a little preview of not preview. Obviously, some of you are familiar with this stuff, but this is the rogue's kind of abilities, where she's kind of gone from her or Tripp's abilities, where she's gone from just her concept state to really like honing in. It's like, hey, this is what she does. This is her. This is what we're trying to exemplify, and taking that initial concept, that initial idea, that initial purpose to be, this is an assassin, this is danger, this is something that is going to hurt you, it's quick, it's fast. So when I took those principles, Ben and I kind of, we collaborate a lot on where we want to go with the flavor and where we want to go with not just visually, but also getting that feeling across. This was is a pretty good example of, as you saw, just based on those little 2D animations that Chris did, of how the dodge works and how it feels. And I kind of tried to get across to that kind of staggered lightning look. And the same thing with her initial swipes. Like you get that feeling of lightning, but it also feels like an attack. It's not just all elemental. And yeah, that's kind of how she's come along. And if you want to go to the next video.
Y'all gotta be damn proud. Those animations are sexy.
This guy right here. This guy right here.
And this is another idea. This is Lord Gnosis. He's sort of the powerhouse. He's all about speed and power. And one of the techniques that we use for effects is extending the animations, like saying this is the path of the animation, and this is kind of where he's swinging his arm. But instead of just having a line that hits the ground, like we're gonna make curves that actually follow that path of his arm as he's swinging, to really like just exaggerate and to really define the flow of the combos as he's swinging. And you can kind of see it here with his the swooping lines as he goes, as he does his combo attack. So you want to go to the next one. And this is sort of this is HK204. He's a little machine, cute, like little jittery guy. But one thing is he's all about guns, shooting, craziness, explosions. So you get a lot of just like shells everywhere, explosions, smoke. Just getting across that feeling of I'm doing a lot of stuff. I don't know where every little bit of what I'm doing is going, but I'm doing a lot of it in a certain direction. And that's not just the animation, but the effects kind of exemplify that.
And you can see a direct correlation from that one prototype animation that we showed you of him unloading on that wall. Like some of it's, and then the thing that's not even represented in this is when he turns into a turret, like those rockets start firing.
Yeah,
as well.
his
It's
focus
not,
ability,
It's not
yeah.
in this animation, but.
And visually, kind of what we wanted to achieve with our effects is to really establish and accomplish that same like charm and feeling that you get with like 2D animation effects, but to do it in 3D, which is a technical feat. But if you have all the tricks to get it right, you can achieve that. And luckily, we've been able to get it to look and feel kind of just really of that same nature, and hopefully explore it a little further and take it take it as far as it can go. So.
Ben, did you want to talk about machines animations because you did a pretty awesome job on this?
Yeah. So I mean, again, going back to those 2D things that Chris did, looking at that stuff serves as, even though Chris was not the person actually animating machine, doing those things sort of reverberated through my head as I went in to go and actually do those animations. So I could draw a ton of inspiration from his ideas and sort of expand upon them. And then one thing I think is worth mentioning, this stuff doesn't all happen where it's like this guy does this, then that guy does that, then that. It's very much this guy does this amount, and then I start my work, and he's still working on his stuff.
Yeah.
And so we can have this sort of back and forth that goes up and down the chain. And, I start machines animations. I might do like, a first pass that gets us like, this is what this character's about. This is what you feel when you play him. But then Mark might go in and start, doing some of those actual effects. That might change completely the way I think about it. I might be like, oh, you know what? You did that awesome mortar shell. That mortar needs to, have a bigger boom, or
Well,
I need to go in and polish that stuff.
A great example of that is I think there's a strafe or two in here, right? And there's these little jets underneath his arms that fire when he strafes and jumps.
Yeah.
And those weren't planned at all. And Mark just decided to put them in because he thought they would look cool, and they look freaking rad. And so we kept him in and built the rest of his movement around that.
Yeah.
What's funny is when Ben first did the jumps, it felt like he had like some kind of propulsion on him, and we may have even talked about it. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I was looking at it, I was like, wouldn't it be cool if he had jet engine, like just jets that jutted out? And so we kind of just were like, let's do it. And we just finished out the rest of his movement animations around it because he's so heavy. He's got to have something to help him out.
Turns out he has no jets.
No jets.
There's nothing under there if you look.
Guys, don't break the mystery. Don't break the mystery.
And even though the little charm, there's some charm to this character, jittery personality, but silly things that I like to put in the concept is like giant robot guy with a backpack, like that kind of idea.
He's a Boy Scout. He's a Boy Scout.
Yeah, he can't even reach the backpack.
Even if he could, he couldn't take anything out of it.
Has he got a sandwich in there?
Probably.
We said he had his sandwich, which would just be like a nuts and bolts and screws and things.
Put between some bread. And the kind of a thing that resonates through all of this is that prime concept of focus. Like what is this character's purpose? Like what are they doing? Like we need to communicate what they're doing and really achieve that in every step along the way. This is another example of using just lines to really accentuate what the animation's doing and kind of getting across that idea of, although it may be fast, like here's a reminder of where his sword went, just to kind of give you a feeling of what you just did and where it went, and kind of pulling that through. So.
What was when did y'all decide, how did y'all decide to only give him one arm?
That's this guy.
This guy.
The question for live feed is why does he only have one arm? I kind of wanted an excuse for the. I designed the concept for this guy. The idea was that he had the pet that was on his shoulder, and I kind of wanted to give him a reason to be there. And my reason was that they have a little bit of a story where they kind of helped each other out, and TYTO, the guy with the cape, found this mouse ferret thing, and was about to eat it and decided not to, and he was injured himself, and he decided not to injure it, and so they have this sort of symbiotic relationship where the mouse ferret kind of acts as his left arm because he lost it. So that was kind of the original idea that I had, but that's just what I was running in with my head, and I also thought it was kind of unnecessary because he had that big cape. You wouldn't actually see it a lot anyway, so I figured why not just lop it off and see what happens.
Yeah. And by the way, the mouse ferret's name is Fang.
Fang.
Yeah.
I call it a ferret.
It's one of those things that has built-in story. Like even if we didn't, when the official story for all these characters comes out, like before seeing all that, you just see an image of the character with, one arm and a pet. Like it starts to get your imagination going, as opposed to just like I was saying before, guy with army fatigue.
Yeah, it's just that extra level of like understanding the character, not just what they do, but like really looking at them and like understanding that there's a story there.
So you guys want to do reveal now?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah. So we have 2 new characters that are getting revealed. They'll be up on the website probably by this afternoon or evening. But we're revealing them here for you guys and internet people. So Devin designed the first one, so we'll go.
Joy wants to hear this.
Yeah.
Most have already seen it.
Oh, yes. This is
Hands on the show
this
floor.
is Angel, aka Vidasi, in the game right now. Sri Vidasi. Originally, this character started with a kit from Finney, and the kit was about a lot of sacrificing health to boost your own abilities, and also healing and damaging opponents with the same ability was a big part of it. So her left mouse button attack, for instance, it can hurt or hinder the target depending on if it's a friend or foe. So it's basically
Hurt or
kind of
heal.
like a judgment that you kind of pass on people. So that was kind of like where we started with it. And when you think about, sacrificing your life and judging people, there's kind of like a spiritual, religious kind of tone to it. So that was kind of the vibe that we went for. So the whole idea of so we tried to bring a lot of sort of like religious motifs and spiritual motifs in there. I borrowed a lot from just combining, seraph from Western religions, and also like Dijin, and and a lot of Buddhist and Tibetan mythology. Trying to bring that into the character, and we thought maybe like setting her hair on fire, like her is the spirit behind her that that it elevates her, and she's always flying. She's always above the ground. She's always higher than you. And that's actually how her skills kind of work too, where she can like fly above everyone and be invincible. So we wanted to show that she was incredibly powerful without
Really
without
exerting
necessarily
herself.
making her feel tanky.
Yeah, and her animations reflect that as well. As she's very like calm and idle.
Yeah.
throughout that. Yeah.
We'll show some of those too.
Oh yeah, this is the concept. We used eyes as a motif for the sort of the judging gaze. Eastern religions sometimes use eyes as sort of the symbol of enlightenment, spiritual enlightenment, and we sort of combine that with sort of the symbology of the sort of Freemason eye on the eye of the pyramid sort of thing, which is the eye of judgment, and sort of combining those into the same sort of idea. So that's kind of what carries through with all of her.
It's deep.
Yeah, with all of her costumes, things like that. Yeah.
She's a support character also.
Yeah, this is working.
So next character is our sniper, Imani. She's basically
She might have been overpowered in the land.
yeah. She is an elite military lady. We haven't decided an official story for her or anything like that, but she's all about confidence. She basically uses her, strength as a sniper to kind of, that's her physical power as opposed to, being able to run around and punch you like the tank would or Margrave. So can show
The
you
design was somewhat military in its like
right.
uniform sort of.
And the gigantic like the world we're creating allows for that. Like we have Roland, who's like that gunner, cowboy type guy. It's a high fantasy world, so there's robots in this world. There's dragons. It's kind of like that Final Fantasy style world as opposed to Lord of the Rings or whatever. I took a lot of inspiration from not necessarily current military stuff, but more World War I and World War II kind of stuff. At some point, when we were having a meeting about this character, James brought up the fact that she looks like she could be in Cobra from G.I. Joe, or even like a Metal Gear type villain. And that once he said that clicked with me. Like, yeah, she's not necessarily a good or evil character. She's more of a neutral, like military person, but she's definitely got her own sense of style and a lot of kind of elite. She just feels elite, and she doesn't care that she has this giant collar, even though she's a sniper. Shape.
The color. That's literally what I was looking for
Right.
when we were at the land. Kill that color.
call her Q-tip.
Q-tip, yeah, that's our code name, Q-tip. We also, the shapes for her ended up being these kind of puffy shapes, and it goes down to her actual anatomy, but also of course, the giant Q-tip thing. And I also echoed that into her crazy gun crossbow design. It's got a lot of these bubbly, big shapes, as opposed to going really sharp, really, these small little shapes that you might actually could use for a sniper character, but this definitely fits the bold category of like, this is a different type of sniper character. Yeah, there's we put together a really like quick and dirty video that let me see here. It just kind of shows some of the animation stuff.
Chris did this is Christian, and Mark did the effects for it. They're really awesome. The way it moves in combat is really amazing. The way that she just kind of floats around, and the spirit orbs are always trailing. You really get, and our audio guy Mateo did a really awesome job with it as well. Yeah. Sort of, define her as like have this really spiritual feel about her, but also have like a slightly dangerous edge to her. So it's kind of like we were really trying to go for that vibe in Neverending Story, where with the sphinxes that sort of judge you at the end of the movie. So that was kind of
Yeah, I don't know who's playing in this when we kept this video, but this video, she takes out some, like, watch this.
This is like
So much for everything we talked about. She's dead.
this is nothing but headshots.
Yeah. She's a force.
And the
to be reckoned with.
gun for Carl is awesome the way it transforms.
Yeah, it's really cool.
You notice that?
It's funny because when we were talking about the animation for that, at one point it was like, kind of make it feel like an umbrella. The most non-scary object in the world, an umbrella, but the fact that it pushes out, then it unfolds, then it shoots, then it comes back in. It's pretty fun. She's actually, as far as the process, not even in second pass or anything like that. So you're seeing some actually rough stuff right now.
So she's not balanced yet.
No.
Yeah.
She's definitely overpowered in the build you guys play.
Yeah. So.
He's real good.
Yeah. So exploit her right now.
Go for it. Go for the
Both
throat.
really powerful.
Yeah.
Just nothing but headshots.
So you want to leave that going while we do Q&A?
Yeah. If you guys have any questions, now's the time.
Q&A time.
And we also brought a few concepts for the revealed characters. If anyone wants to see them or ask questions about them, I can pull those up.
Can you hear me? Yeah. We're also going to take some questions from the Twitch channel.
Okay, cool.
So since they've been hanging out quietly on Twitch, folks, as you hear this, ask your questions and then we'll, so cue those up and we will read them. That's not appropriate. But do we have anyone in the audience that has yeah, exactly.
How long does it typically take y'all to finish a character from first draft all the way to final build?
So the question was, how long does it take us to complete a character from first draft to final build? But it's kind of a huge, complicated question because some characters go really fast, and some characters like Rogue went through 3 revisions.
Yeah.
She's a really old character, whereas like Vidasi here, it was a pretty quick one. Anywhere, I'd say Rogue probably has 3 months worth of just model and concept work in her. I'd say Vidasi probably had 1 month.
Well, the concept part though took about a month by itself though.
Yeah, she went.
She went through a lot of revisions.
Right.
It's so some characters are like we find a drawing that we really like and we kind of fit that to a design need, and sometimes we find a design for a character and we do a concept based on that. Mm-hmm. It kind of depends on where we are with designs and concepts and what really strikes us and inspires us. Sorry, that's not a very specific answer or helpful, but
well,
it's pretty different
yeah.
for every
Yeah,
character.
I guess sort of we've invested in a lot of the older characters because they've kind of taught us what we want to do and what we can learn from, and definitely the newer ones I think are going to go quicker than the previous. But
Two of the quicker ones were Knossos and Zenobia, the tentacle lady. I just did like 1 or 2 drawings of Knossos, and we liked that idea. And then Zenobia, I did one really rough sketch of this lady that had tentacles and Medusa vibe and sea creature vibe, and we liked it. And I just finished the concept, and then it just went, kept going from there.
But the animation did not.
Yeah.
There's no hard and fast rule for
Yeah.
exactly how long a thing will take.
We've got some questions from the tubes, real quick. Let me see here. Blizz asks a question. Why are you so good at making characters?
Because we're awesome.
All right. And then another question.
they didn't let you work anywhere else.
We already answered that one. Where is that? Sorry, we're new to the internet. They actually have a question about lore and how that influences the heroes that you make.
I think we definitely design feelings first, I think, and what the actual role of the character is in the game first, and then we design our lore sort of around that. So I think for a lot of our characters, they start not with a story, but more with like the feeling that we're going to go after.
Yeah.
And that especially comes through once animation and effects actually get in there and start acting. But as we're also concepting, that's definitely how we're thinking about it.
Yeah.
Which one of the panelists is heavy breathing into the microphone? I just want to know. Because I thought it was me for a minute. I was like,
I didn't mean that. I'm sorry.
I was really excited about what Devin was saying.
It was very distracting.
The official lore, James actually kind of finishes that off. But while we're working, like, I know Devin, I can speak for Devin. Like, both the two of us, we always come up with little snippets here and there for the characters, because you're sitting with this drawing or this concept for like 2 to 3 weeks or more, and you end up just inventing stuff. I always end up thinking of story ideas like on my drive home, and then you send it to James and say, hey, here's an idea. He might use it, he might not, he might have his own idea, but that's kind of how it works. It's like, it's more as you're working on it, you start kind of coming up with stuff.
I have one more question from our friends in the Twitch channel. This is coming from the Hippogriff. Will the game be designed for, in quotes, all ages, or are we going to see some dark characters?
I would say because of the bold, focused, charming thing, I don't know. We're kind of as an art team, we want to make people feel included. As far as when you go through our character roster, you're not going to just be like, this is not the game for me. Like, it's more like the way maybe Pixar looks at the way they design characters is, appealing to a lot of people. There are going to be some characters that, like, Zenobia is creepy. She's a little bit darker looking. Even TRIPP is like that. Yeah. Whereas we have some really silly, fun characters like Uncle Sven. So I think there's going to be a broad range, but nothing's going to get gory or gross or weird like that.
If you're okay with the violence, you should probably be okay with.
No one's getting eviscerated or guts everywhere.
Yeah.
Oh. Do we have a question from folks who are in the live
But
studio
headshots though,
audience?
right?
Headshots. All day. Headshots. No.
Anyone?
Regarding since it takes whatever amount of time to do a character, would James and them be doing the skills at the same time, even if you are revising the art?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, a lot of times the skills are figured out.
Wasn't lightning.
Well, TRIPP is a weird case because she was like in game before we had the current gameplay in. But a lot of characters now, the skill design is in, and a lot of characters we prototype before there's any art for them.
And
we have characters in game now that are just blockouts of like primitives, and there's no art or concept for them yet. Yeah. We're just like prototyping gameplay and see what's fun, and then when that really goes, we pursue it.
Exactly.
I think the process is different for every character. Like sometimes they totally start with a kit. Like Angel totally came out of a kit, and then sometimes we'll just be like brainstorming and do some sketch, and then a whole kit will come out of that. Or it'll be like, there'll be a kit and then a separate idea, and then they'll just kind of start retrofitting into each other, and it evolves out of that. And
And some things are like two things that we really like the design and we like the kit, and then they were intended for different things, but we kind of just made them work together just because we like the pairing so well.
try to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the lead that we just saw with Uncle Sven doing the puddle. It used to be some kind of sword thing that someone had a nice idea of.
Yeah.
Sure. I think also coming back to Blizz's question from Twitch, I think part of the thing that makes the things that we do very well received is the fact that it's an iterative process and that we can sort of rely on each other's specialties to kind of bring out the best in ourselves.
Yeah.
A question, actually, a couple from the Twitch channel. We're gamers at Motiga. We play a lot of different games. What's inspiring, or what do you see out there, past, present, that inspires hero creation and what you're working on?
For me, I'm a huge fan of Capcom, so I'm always looking at like the way they design characters, Street Fighter especially, but all their properties. And I don't know, I come from an illustration background, also I like comics. So I'm looking at all of like the things that I love and bringing it into this game, including my own sense of, what I like to see in characters. So it's kind of like this project for me, it's like a dream project because it's like I'm drawing what I really like to draw, and I can pull from a lot of sources. I've worked on other projects where I can't bring anything from the Capcom world because the game is super realistic or something like that. Whereas our game is in that nice cartoony spot where I can look at the stuff that I'm really into and get inspired by that.
We're all fanboys and fangirls of things, so we just kind of, do things that we're really big fans of, And I mean, like, this character is very, Metal Gear Solid, Solid Snake, but also, Cobra Commander,
Right.
all those secret James Bond espionage movies, that's just kind of the vibe that we're into,
Right.
and we just kind of go forward with that feeling. And so that's where we draw a lot of our inspiration, is all of our nerdy stuff that we like.
Right.
Is that fair?
That's
pretty fair.
Good answer. Hey, so we've got a lot of folks in here, and I think even in the room, that are pretty inspired by the careers you have and the talent that you've got. What you're in, like, what was, like, you're giving someone advice on their career goals to do the things that you're doing. What do you tell them?
I would say start as soon as possible, just researching what it takes, what the people that do the job you want to do, the skill set they have, the software they use, figure that out and start doing it, and start collaborating with other people. If you want to get into games and you don't just want to be a solo illustrator, find other people with complementary skill sets and try to work together and really start getting experience in what it takes to work on a team to make something, And there's no level of that is not helpful to get you moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
And if you're into concept art, draw, like always be drawing, stop watching panels and draw. Both, all the really good concept artists I know, including Devin right here, is like fill up sketchbooks and always be exploring different things with your art, and it'll start to just build on itself, and at some point you'll hit that point where it's just like, okay, I know my anatomy, I have ideas for how to interpret different characters, and I'm ready to put a portfolio together, like drawing, just getting that 10,000 hours in, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
And don't feel bad when your stuff sucks.
Yeah.
Because it will suck for a long time.
A long time.
And,
It
don't,
will-
and don't compare yourself to other people.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. No, if your stuff sucks, it's fine. Keep doing it.
Yeah. If you know it sucks, that's great. Because there's a lot of people that, don't realize it. Well, it's true. Being a self-critique, you have to be your own critic. It's really important to understand like where you need to grow and where you need to like move, because a lot of times like you're the one person in the room that's going to give you like, oh, this doesn't look good, I have to turn it this way, or I have to like, kind of work on or brush up on my anatomy or whatever. But definitely like being a good self-critic, or excuse me, self-critic. So.
And don't stick in just games. Like, keep your interests in everything,
Yeah.
like movies and, you know, fashion and biology. Everything helps. Like,
Literature.
everything helps.
And like art history too.
Art history.
Like
Architecture.
I know I mentioned in the other answer Capcom. Like, you know, I look at Capcom, Street Fighter, and stuff like that. But and I'm always looking at the older stuff too. Like, I don't like. It's good to know what's happening now in your field. Keep current of what the kind of trends are, but looking at what's been done in the past, like Golden Age illustration, what choices people made, you know, Renaissance art, like all that kind of stuff will actually get you. You'll get more out of that than just looking at, you know, what's happening now in games or movies or anything like that.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, that was great. I know that folks who are hanging out here are going to have some opportunities to interact with you. The folks on the stream have really appreciated everything you've done. Would you guys give them a round of applause? That was pretty phenomenal. For those of you in the room and listening via Twitch, we're going to put this up on the YouTubes so you can rewatch it and watch it and rewatch it, and then maybe freeze it on like a freaky looking face of one of our developers. But I want to thank everyone that's online for watching as well. Remember that we've got a panel again tomorrow. We'll share more information about that, 3 p.m. Same time, Pacific Standard. And again, thank you guys. We're done.
Cool. Thank you.